What's up, y'all? It's your boy Ace. Back again. This is Fantasize Football. I am the captain of the ship, and I'm here today to bring y'all the second part in the 5-part series, 5 things I'm excited for fantasy football in 2021. Hope y'all enjoy. Let's get to it. Now, last time, part 1, we talked about Allen Robinson. Fortunately, the day of the video, my boy A-Rob got franchise tagged. So we're looking back on that now, and I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's not the best case scenario. There still is the chance that they end up trading him. I doubt that's going to happen. I think he's going to be in Chicago at least for this year. I don't see him signing a long-term deal. He doesn't seem happy, and I can't imagine that money's going to kind of solve that for him. But with that out of the way, let's get right into part 2. Now, today I'm going to be talking about something that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and I'm not really sure why, because I think it's really interesting, and I think it could be one of the more productive situations for whoever lands in the spot. And without further ado, let's just get right into it. I'm talking about the Atlanta Falcons and their backfield situation. Who's going to be the running back there? Because I really think this could be one of the most promising, highest upside types of situations out of any opened up backfield this season. And the reason why I feel that way is mostly because of Arthur Smith and who Arthur Smith is, what he's done in the past. And then there's a few other things. Before I get to Arthur Smith, let me get this out of the way. Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley's out. He's gone. They're not going to bring him back. They already said they're not going to bring him back. Brian Hill's a free agent as well. I'm not sure if they bring him back. If they do bring him back, I'm not really worried about it. In the few starts he has had, he hasn't been anything special. He hasn't shown to be the type of player that's really going to take away from an elite running back. But with that out of the way, let's get more into Arthur Smith and why I really like this situation. So as y'all know, or if you're not aware, in the past couple seasons, Arthur Smith has been the offensive coordinator for the Titans. And what have the Titans done very well over these past couple of years? Ran the ball. Now, in 2019 and 2020, respectively, the Titans ran the ball 445 times and 521 times for a total of 966 rush attempts over the past couple of years, which was 49% of their plays. So what does this mean for the Falcons in their backfield? I mean, to me, it says that Arthur Smith's going to come in and he's going to want to establish the run. He's going to want to run a balanced offense where they can set up for play action really well, something that historically Matt Ryan's done really well. We'll get into that a little more. But the other thing I do want to mention real quick is obviously the Titans did have Derrick Henry. And it's not like Derrick Henry, you can go out and you can sign a Derrick Henry in free agency, or you can just draft a Derrick Henry. So I'm not saying that the Falcons are all of a sudden going to be a team that runs the ball on 50% of their plays or whatever. But I do think this is going to be something that when Arthur Smith comes in, he's going to want to change about the team. They haven't had an effective rush game since Devonta Freeman was really relevant. And I think this could be really good for fantasy as well. And the reason why I say that is because Arthur Smith has shown a propensity to want to use a workhorse. Now, in these past couple of years, Derrick Henry handled 70% of the Tennessee Titans rushing workload while missing a game in 2019. Now, again, we're not going to have a Derrick Henry. Well, we could have someone close, but Derrick Henry's a generational talent. He's one of the best pure rushers in the league. He's a different breed. But one thing that could set apart whoever the Falcons running back is and Derrick Henry is the work in the passing game. And again, we'll get to that a little later on. But I do think that if the right player ends up on the Falcons, they could be a full-blown workhorse and it could be one of the best situations for fantasy. Now, something else I want to touch on is that obviously the Falcons are a little different in the terms of team structure than the Titans are. And what I mean by that is you have Matt Ryan at the helm, you have Julio Jones, you have Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst, Russell Gage. You got a lot of guys that they're going to want to get involved in the pass game. So I'm not saying that all of a sudden the Falcons are going to become a type of team that's running the ball on 50% of their plays, like I mentioned before. But I do think Arthur Smith's going to want to have them be a little more balanced and run the ball a little more and use his running backs a little more effectively. And like I mentioned earlier, this is where the play action kind of comes up because the Titans were one of the best teams in the league, if not the best team in the league, when it came to play action. And I'm a Miami fan. I've seen Tannehill. Tannehill's turned his career completely around in Tennessee. He's a totally different guy. And I think a lot of that had to do with how effective he was using the play action. And I don't know how much of that was Arthur Smith, but I'm assuming that he picked up on how well that worked in Tennessee, and that's something he's going to want to implement over in Atlanta as well. So I don't think this is something that's just good for whoever the running back is for the Falcons. This is something that's going to be good for the entire team. It's going to be better for Matt Ryan, for Julio, for Ridley, for Hurst, for Gage, for everybody. Because when you can implement play action effectively, it's one of the best things an offense can do. And how do you implement an effective play action game? By having a strong run game. So that's the first step. Having a running back that is effective running the ball in order to set up for these play action plays. And I think, like I had said, this is something that Arthur Smith's going to have his eye on and be focused on right out the gate. I don't think they'll take any time to waste. They won't waste any time with this. It's going to be this offseason. They're going to look for a guy, whether it be through free agency or the draft, a better replacement for Todd Gurley, someone that can help them have a more effective rush game. So back over to Arthur Smith real quick. So over the past couple of years with Tennessee, they have averaged 990 plays per season. And I'm just going to assume the same pace, although I do think they'll be more around that 1,000 to 1,050 plays, maybe even more than that. The Falcons are historically a faster pace offense, but if they're a better team, then their pace will kind of go down a little bit. If they're winning more games, if their defense is helping them out a little better. And I do think that their defense will be a little better after their head coach was fired last year. They did start showing some promise on defense. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the Falcons' rush attack from last year, which was pretty bad, to be honest. In 2019, they ran the ball 409 times, and in 2020, they ran the ball 362 times for a total of 771 rush attempts. Okay, that was only 36% of their plays that were rush attempts. Now, they ran at a 3.8 yards per attempt clip in 2019 and 3.7, even worse last year. And I know using like yards per carry, yards per attempt, however you want to put it, isn't the best metric to use, but it's right in front of us. And it just goes to show that they really weren't good, and they haven't been since Devontae Freeman was really relevant either. But what I'm looking at is that the 2021 starter, whoever it may be, could be a workhorse. In Tennessee, the starter they were running the ball 30 times a game, which is crazy. So let's just use that 990 plays right now. I'm going to be doing some math, so I'm going to put this up on the screen, whatnot. For those of you that are watching, if you're listening, don't worry. I'll try to be kind of slow. Keep up with me. You don't have to do any of the math in your head. It's just a means to an end, so you can kind of see what I'm thinking, because I want to give y'all an idea of where I think whoever this may be could end up, okay? So if we take 999 plays, or 990 plays, which is what the Tennessee Titans ran in the past couple of years on average, and we take 36% of that, which is what the Falcons did in the rush game the past couple of years. So this is more of a low-end idea. That's 356 rush attempts, and we assume that whoever the starter is gets 60% of attempts. And like we had mentioned before, Derrick Henry handled 70% of attempts. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chop 10% off that to be safe, assuming it's a 60-40 split with someone. That's 214 carries on the low end. Now, let's say they rush at a 40% clip with their top running back getting 70% of the workload, okay? So 990 plays, 40% of that is 396 total rush attempts. And now we're going to take the top guy getting 70%, which is a 277 attempt ceiling, with an average and in between of 246 attempts, all right? Now, this is where what I said earlier about the difference between Derrick Henry and whoever this running back ends up being could make a difference. And that's in the targets and the catches, because Derrick Henry wasn't much of a pass catcher, but Matt Ryan has shown a propensity to like to throw to the running back a little bit more. So in 2019, the Falcons had 108 backfield targets, whether that be a running back, a fullback, whatever. And then last year, 106 targets. So that's 107 per season, right? Now, let's say on the low end, whoever it is gets 30% of those targets, and that average of 107. So 107 by 30%, that's 32 targets using a 70% catch rate. That's 22 catches on the low end, okay? Now, let's say that whoever that running back is gets 50% of the targets, the running back targets, that is, 107, 50% of that is 54 catches, rounding up a little bit, and we're going to use that same catch rate of 70%, that's 38 catches. So now if we add all that up, right, we take that 214 carries and add 22 catches, that's 236 touches over the season. That's 15 touches per game. Now, if we take that high end of 277 rush attempts and 38 catches, that's 315 touches over the season, which is 20 a game. And then the average of both the 246 rush attempts and 30 catches, that's 276 touches throughout the season, which is 17 a game with potential for more. Now, what does this say, right? What does this mean for fantasy, okay? I'm cool with a 15 to 20 touch guy. And I think that this is a situation where more than likely whoever it is that ends up being the running back is going to end up being a value. Now, let's kind of get into some possible guys that I could see landing here, that some great scenarios, some not so great scenarios, and what I kind of think. Because the reason why I say that is because let's say it's like right off the bat, let's say it's Aaron Jones, right? I don't necessarily think Aaron Jones will be a crazy value, but I still do think he'll be a value because I can't see him being like a top 5, top 10 running back ADP wise, but I can see him finishing there. If you give Aaron Jones 315 touches, which I think would be a possible outcome for him, maybe even more, because he's a good pass catcher. He's a guy that can catch the ball, and although he has been kind of limited in his workload over the past couple of years, look at last year in 2019's fantasy finishes. He's been great. If you give him a real workload and he can stay healthy, he's going to be an absolute maniac. You give that guy 315, 330 touches, done. He could, if all goes his way, he could easily be a top 3 running back, I would say, and I can't see him getting drafted there. I would assume he would probably be he would be a top 12 running back, I would assume. He'd probably be in a mid to late second round, depending on who you're drafting with. But he would still be a value with that because of his potential upside. And I don't think he would finish much lower than that. Now, another guy I think about is Chris Carson. Chris Carson didn't get the franchise tag. Chris Carson has had some health issues, though, which is kind of rough. But even with that in mind, he showed last year that he can be an effective pass catcher, which was one of the big question marks outside of his health. And he's one of the most underrated, criminally underrated, not only fantasy assets, but actual running backs in the NFL. He's great, and he really just doesn't get the credit he deserves, in my opinion at least. But I think Chris Carson's another situation where if he's healthy, he could be a workhorse. He's a great runner. He showed last year he can catch the ball. That's another situation, and I wouldn't imagine if he ended up on the Falcons that he would be any sooner than like a third-round pick, maybe in a 10-team league, even a fourth-round pick. And if you're telling me that I could go out and I could draft a running back in the first round and then come back and maybe even get another running back in the second round or get Travis Kelce maybe or whatever, or say I go running back, and then in the third round get either a wide receiver or Darren Waller or George Kittle or whatever, and then come back in the fourth round and get Chris Carson, I'm set at running back. I don't have to draft another running back till I want to take a shot a little later on. I mean, well, you don't have to. Me personally, I'm a huge robust RB guy, a huge just overall draft more running backs type of dude. I like to grab, 4 running backs in the first 5 or 6 rounds. Make sure I'm set up at the position because there's so much scarcity there. But with that in mind, like if you can get a Chris Carson on the Falcons with the upside of 300 touches if he stays healthy in the 4th round, that's league winning upside right there with where you're going to be picking him. Now, with 2 ideas, before I actually get into that, Javonte Williams. This is one that I love. I love Javonte Williams personally. I really do. I think he's going to be great at the next level. And the Falcons could draft him. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a first or early second round pick. I think the Falcons really could get their hands on him. And I think he would be a great fit and another value. I mean, in a situation with Javonte Williams, so this kind of leads me into my next point, where say they go out and they draft Javonte Williams, but then they sign, let's say, like a Mike Davis. then I'm not as excited. Then I'm looking more towards that low end of like 15 touches a game, 13 to 15 touches a game, probably closer to 15. Because the way I did this out, I think that 15 a game, as long as whoever it is healthy, really is the floor. Because I used a low overall plays run, and I was very fair with handing out the rush attempts, whether breaking it down percentages wise. I used like a 60-40 split. So I think that I don't think he'd be like a horse if they brought in like a Mike Davis or something like that. But if they like re-signed like Brian Hill, I think he could be a 17-18 touch a game guy. And as a rookie, I wouldn't expect him to be drafted much sooner than the 5th or 6th round in most leagues. And Javonte Williams wasn't a great pass catcher in college, but I do think he has the potential to at least be serviceable. It's going to depend a lot on how he is in pass blocking situations as well. But listen, if I can get a guy in the 5th, 6th, 7th round that's going to be a 17 touch per game guy, I'm happy. I'm cool with that, So for fantasy, I think this situation is a lot better than anyone really either realizes or has talked about yet. Maybe it just hasn't like resonated, or maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. You know what I mean? I really don't know. But in my mind, the way I'm thinking about this with Arthur Smith and the Falcons team as a whole, I just think this is going to work out. And just to recap everything, the reasons why I think this will work so well is Arthur Smith and his history with the Titans, the Falcons having a poor rush attack these past couple years. I'm assuming they're going to want to get better in that regard and have a more effective rush game, so that they can set up to have a more effective play action game. And then I think that they're going to bring in someone, they're going to prioritize this, that can really help their rush attack. And if it's a guy like Aaron Jones, if it's a guy like Chris Carson, if they go out draft a Javonte Williams, these are all situations that I really, really like. The only thing that I'm not really super hot on is if they draft like a 3rd or 4th round guy and they don't really address it properly. Say they go out and they sign Mike Davis and then they draft like a Kenny Gainwell or something like that. Then I'm not super excited for either of them. I think Mike Davis is really good. I mean, I would still be excited because I don't think they would be drafted very high. But I don't think that the ceiling's really there as much, because then I think it would be too much of a timeshare. But then again, even you say that and you think of like, when I think of Kenny Gainwell, I almost think like Keyshawn Vaughn of last year, where people will hype him up as like, oh, he's going to come in and be the passing downs guy, and then barely even see the field. And if that's the case, and we saw what Mike Davis could do with a workload last year, if he's in a 16, 17, 18 touch per game type of deal, sharing a little bit of the work with Brian Hill and a little bit with Gainwell or whoever it is, or they go out and they sign like a Theo Riddick or something, or say it's Javonte and they go out and they sign Theo Riddick or something, you know what I mean? Just to take a little work in the pass game off the shoulders, handle some pass blocking situations. Cool, I'm fine with that. So with all that said, that's going to kind of wrap it up. I'm very excited to see how this plays out. I'm very excited for this, and I'm going to be keeping my eye on it, because if it works out correctly, I'm definitely going to be looking at whoever the Falcons running back is in fantasy football drafts in 2021. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please like the video, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your teachers, tell your grandma, tell whoever, share, whatever. Put that bell on, subscribe, all that, so you know when the next one's coming. I'm going to be coming at y'all very soon with part 3. I hope you enjoyed part 1 and part 2. And I love y'all. Thank you for your time. Have a great day. Peace.